Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
Welcome to Crosspointe.
We are an inclusive faith community
seeking to live out the loving, just, and generous way of Jesus.
We are participants in a long tradition
that's less concerned with doctrines and dogma that demand total agreement,
but a life to be lived, enjoyed, and given away to others.
What unites us is a growing awareness that life is precious.
That we are made by love in order to love.
This community is comprised of and affirms the entire human family.
Regardless of race, age, creed,
physical abilities, marital or economic status,
gender identity, or sexual orientation.
So, if you're curious and have come to see,
if you are tired and have come to rest,
if you are grateful and have come to share,
if you are wounded and have come to heal,
if you're joyful and have come to celebrate,
if you are uprooted and have come to belong,
welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
We have sought the truth, we have felt the pain, even wandered beyond our faith in the name. We cannot pretend we are always okay. We cannot depend on fast food grace. So help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you. Help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you. When the way is unclear and the answers elusive, it is different by far than a broken conclusion. You are not the God that my pain has conceived. You are deeper and stronger than my eyes can see. So help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you. Help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you. Help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you. Help me let you go. Help me give up control of the God I have made you when my fear has contained you.
welcome at the table of the Lord.
All are welcome here. You are welcome here.
Who belongs in the house of the Lord?
All are welcome here. You are welcome here. All the hurting, hungry, tired and afraid. All the lonely, broken people with no place.
We call you blessed child. You show us Christ's face. You are blessed child. You show us God's grace. Who is welcome at the table of the Lord?
All are welcome here. You are welcome here.
Who belongs in the house of the Lord?
All are welcome here. You are welcome here. All the hurting, hungry, tired and afraid. All the lonely, broken people with no place.
We call you blessed child. You show us Christ's face. You are blessed child. You show us God's grace. Who belongs here? You belong here. Who belongs here? You belong. Who belongs here? We belong here. All belong in the house of the Lord. Who belongs here? You belong here. Who belongs here? You belong. Who belongs here? We belong here. All belong in the house of the Lord. All the hurting, hungry, tired and afraid. All the lonely, broken people with no place. We call you blessed child. You show us Christ's face. You are blessed child. You show us God's grace. You are blessed child. You show us Christ's face. You are blessed child. You show us God's grace.
Hey Crosspointe, hope you're doing well today. I have a few announcements that I just want to make sure to keep you in the loop about and make sure that you're aware of for our community. First, as we mentioned last week, we're looking for a couple key volunteer leaders who can provide leadership to our community garden. Some of you, whether you attend in person or you're local to the Triangle but maybe solely participate online, some of you, you've been looking for a way to contribute and serve, and this just may be the thing. Right behind our campus building here in Cary, we have a wonderful garden that we created in 2018 and we've stewarded it ever since. Through the years, hundreds of volunteers have helped maintain the garden and contribute to various projects with it, and countless groups have enjoyed it, from local scout troops to thousands of campers that come through the YMCA. And perhaps most importantly, each week, the harvest from our garden goes to supply fresh food to our partners at the White Oak Food Pantry to feed people in need. When we built this campus, one of our hopes was to honor the original farmland this property sits on by growing food on it that could feed people, as well as having a tangible way to teach the thousands of kids that step foot on our campus that food doesn't just come from a grocery store or a restaurant, that it tells a story of trust and patience and growth and death and life. Our two lead gardeners, Jenny and Christine, have done an amazing job providing leadership to this effort through the years, but they're retiring, and so we need some people committed to filling this vacancy. And the reality is we won't be able to keep it going without some key committed volunteers. Jenny and Christine are happy to be advisors and mentors and pass on all their vast wisdom. They simply can't maintain the regular tasks required to keep managing other volunteers and helping the garden thrive. So if you or someone you know who shares our collective heart and values around this garden might be interested in finding out some more about this volunteer position, please reach out to Crosspointe at community@crosspoint.org, and we will get you all the information that you need. Next, again, for those of you local to this area, we wanted to give you one last reminder that on July 26th, our middle and high school students will be doing a Serve Day. Service is one of our core values with our students, and we have a ton of students serving in various ways this summer on different trips, but they also want to live out that value, that service isn't something that just happens outside of our context, but it gets lived out here in our community as well. So if you happen to have a project that you could use help with, or that you simply haven't had time for, things like yard work or small repairs, moving things, painting things, cleaning out that garage, tearing something apart, whatever it is, if you have something, let us know. They sincerely don't want you to pay them for it. You just need to make them aware. So all you have to do is go to crosspoint.org/events, scroll down to July 26th where it says Student Ministry Summer Service Day, and you can find all the information there, and our student ministry team will follow up with you. Next, this Tuesday night, June 24th, is our annual Story Night event. Now, Story Night is one of our best events each summer. It takes place at Fortnight Brewery, and as the main part of the programming, we'll have 6 or so people from our community step to the microphone and share authentic stories from their own lives around the theme of Fuel to the Fire. Our very own teaching pastor, Steve Doherty, an award-winning storyteller in his own right, hosts the event, and it's just a great way to spend a Tuesday evening and hang out with a lot of great people. So that's this Tuesday night, June 24th at 7 p.m. at Fortnight Brewery. The event's completely free, but if you plan on coming, it's always helpful for us to know how many people to prepare for, so just go to crosspoint.org. You'll find the link there on the main page where you can register. And for what it's worth, make sure to give yourself a little bit of extra time to find a place to park, because it can fill up rather quickly around that area, or maybe carpool with some friends to make it easier. And then one more thing to put on your calendar, but as we do each summer, we won't be meeting in person on Sunday, July 6th. Every summer, we take a break from our in-person services on the 3 holiday weekends of Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day. And so, again, we will not be gathering in person on July 6th, but we will still have an online service just like this that day. And then lastly, as we invite people to each week, if you're willing and able to help fund Crosspointe, who we are and what we do together as a community, and all the different ways that we strive to show up and be a voice of love and hope in the world with our words and our actions, I invite you to go to crosspoint.org/contribute. There's a variety of different ways you can contribute there. You can give by card or check, stock, PayPal, text. You can contribute one time, or you can set up recurring contributions, however you want. But this community doesn't exist without all of us who are willing to fund it, believing we can do way more together to make a difference in our world when we leverage our generosity together than what any of us can do individually. So Crosspointe, thanks for being you. You're loved.
In ancient Greek mythology, there's a place called Hades, and in that place there is a river named Lethe. When the souls of the dead drank the water from the Lethe River, it made them forget their past, forget their life before they died. It sort of washed it away from their minds. Lethe means forgetting. Now, in Greek, adding an a prefix to a word, it generally changes the definition into its opposite. Same really in English. If something is typical, it means common. If something is atypical, it means uncommon. So that's very similar to Greek. Lethe means forgetting, and lethe is related to other words that mean similar ideas, like covered up or hidden, concealed from view. So adding the prefix a to the root word lethe gives you uncovered, unconcealed, unhidden, unforgotten, or disclosed. In ancient Greece, it's a way that you would say reality, the uncovered, fully observed way things actually are. Also, Aletheia was the daughter of Zeus, just for some trivia. So Jesus was once speaking to a crowd that had people who were both for and against him, and then, everything in between. And of the things Jesus said to this crowd of people, he said, if you continue in my word, if you continue following my way, you are truly my disciples, my students, and you will know the aletheia, and the aletheia will make you free, will liberate you. In English, you probably recognize it already, we translate that word truth. Just like when Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. He's using a word that means to those who spoke the language, I am what is actual. I am the uncovered, unhidden, revealed reality. Oftentimes in ancient Greek writings, you can read that someone uses the word aletheia to contrast lying, not to contrast an error, being wrong, but to contrast trying to cover something up in service of something that would require fear or something like that to sustain it. You will know the truth and you will be set free by the truth. I am the truth. Not truth as in an idea that you propose and aren't allowed to question. Truth as in the way things actually are, self-evidently, under the covering of genuine ignorance or unobserving or forgetting or prejudice or intentional deception. Underneath all that, even covered by that which to uncover it would be really disruptive. Underneath all that is what is. That's the truth that Jesus offers and that Jesus is. So to really drill down on it, we're not talking about words about the truth or words against it, not labels, not conclusions or convictions or beliefs or stories about it, but it. So if you bring your favorite casserole recipe to a potluck, and on the recipe it details every ingredient, every step of the process, the correct procedures for baking it, the precise oven temperature, and then all the ratings of other people who have eaten it and how it compares to other casseroles. You've done a really interesting thing, but you haven't brought a casserole to the potluck. Even if you brought the right recipe about the casserole, and the other guests, they say that you're right, you've not observed and experienced the actual thing. So I don't want us to think about Jesus as talking about the truth. I think he was the truth. I think that's the right way to think about this. I don't think he was offering the truth to set us free. He was saying that we will come to experience it and at the same time realize that what we are experiencing is what is. So let's talk about dinosaurs, because I try to whenever it's possible. My closer friends will tell you that that's true, and they'll roll their eyes, but they love me. This past Wednesday, I got to go to I think you call it a private screening. There wasn't very many of us there, of the new BBC special, Walking with Dinosaurs. They did one back in '99. It was a big game changer, and so there are new ones out. I hope you get a chance to see it. And it very prominently features paleontologist Eric Lund, who is right here in North Carolina at the North Carolina Museum of Natural Sciences. He was one of 3 scientists on a Q&A panel. I got to talk to him afterward and to ask some really top shelf nerdy questions. We're basically friends now. I don't think he'd mind me announcing that we're best friends. So it was great. And when I got home, I was reading a few things and then I got a little caught in a rabbit hole and I found some reminders of yet another conspiracy theory where people are insisting that dinosaurs aren't real. And it's not just one or two, it's not a ton of people, of course, but it's a real conspiracy theory, if that's a thing. It's an uncomfortable amount of people. And it includes, I'm not going to mention any names, extremely influential people who actually shape policy in the United States. And so I'm not going to share charts or graphs because I didn't find out any real data, and that's not really my point. The reason for people not believing in dinosaurs ever existing seems, though, to be very largely and maybe entirely due to a particular kind of way of seeing religion, Christianity specifically. They say things like dinosaurs aren't real. They're an evil deception to make us think the earth is old so that we'll believe, we don't matter, swallowed up in vast amounts of time. Sentiments like dinosaurs are a hoax designed to lead us away from God. That is an actual thing I read when I was in the rabbit hole. So it's not about what we're actually observing. It's about what it does to the story that we prefer. In the early 1800s, a man by the name of William Buckland, he was the dean of Westminster and was eventually a president of the Geological Society of London. He got his hands on the fossilized bones of what he and some others could see with some study was a gigantic reptile. A tooth, big sharp tooth, and a jaw, and some other parts of the animal, huge. So he named it Great Lizard, or Megalosaurus. By the way, this is before we had the word dinosaur. This was several decades before the word dinosaur existed. So, fun fact, George Washington didn't know anything about dinosaurs and never heard the word. I like to think whenever your child is feeling down or is feeling unworthy or feeling stupid, encourage them by reminding them if they know about dinosaurs, they know more about the world than the first American president did. So Buckland has these bones, he has these fossils, and he also has this incredible reputation for painstaking research on the geology of the earth and making very keen observations about that, how different plants and animals can be found in discrete strata of rock, but in this one, but not in another one, which was very clearly showing that they lived in this time in history, but not in other times of history. And he is a devout and respected Christian. He's a scientist and he's a man of faith, and he takes both of those things very seriously. And what that meant for him in his context in the early 1800s is that he sort of carried a tension, and who knows what he thought. He's been dead a long time, but he seemed to, in my reading of him, carry this tension really well, especially for his time. And yet, the story he felt that he had to tell and to protect, the story that others felt that they had to keep and to preserve, the story they had to keep telling, it made learning and observing what actually was very difficult. So first, once it was established that Megalosaurus was a giant reptile, Buckland said, okay, this thing is huge, and it's a lizard. All lizards are tetrapods, 4-footed, and so this was a giant 4-footed lizard. Here's the model of the Megalosaurus that was created, this giant concrete thing that they made, based on the findings and the measurements of the bones they had and their speculations, which is amazing. I really wish things like this had and still existed. However, despite this being the first documented non-avian dinosaur in history, neither Buckland nor anybody else had any idea what a theropod was. That these giant lizards were most commonly bipedal, two-legged, and we now know Megalosaurus actually looked more like this. So, he can't be faulted for not knowing what he didn't know, and neither can he be faulted for the other ways that observations are blocked by the stories he and others already held. We all do that. Because you see that the Megalosaurus' existence was a wrinkle for Christian belief back then. Because the dominant belief was that there was no pain and suffering or death until Adam and Eve sinned. Very clearly, this fossilized beast and other animals like it found in these ancient strata of rock existed in a time that came before human beings and before the animals that we observe today. So if they existed, they had to exist before what was often referred to as the original sin, which Adam and Eve caused, and which brought with it all the pain and the death and sorrow that we see now. So that could not have existed in a pre-Adam and Eve context that we call paradise. You see, he's finding this thing, but he has this other story, and the way he's supposed to tell it, and everybody else is supposed to tell it, and they're all stuck together. So how can there be these 50, 60, 70-foot-long, dagger-toothed, and obviously meat-eating monsters roaming the earth in a time where we're supposed to say the story that is there is no pain or death? The explanation that people were giving back then is an explanation still given by a lot of creationists today, is that Megalosaurus was a gigantic, peaceful vegetarian. That's still an argument. The giant sharks and crocodiles and the hyenas, their teeth and their physiology, ignore all that. They're plant eaters. They were made to be plant eaters. They only eat meat now because of Adam and Eve, and the teeth and the physiology just turned out to be handy for that. Buckland, a scientist and a devout Christian, said, and wrote this very publicly, that's silly. That's spin, and that's childish spin. And that's a bold thing to do in a context where he was commenting on a very popular expression of what commitment to the truth meant. It was a bold thing for him to do. So then how did he determine to reconcile it? Because he had to. He's got these stories bumping up against each other. Well, he already believed that the earth was far, far, far older than people believed. And he found a way to explain it by the wording in the book of Genesis. And as it pertained to the megalosaurus specifically, he determined that this giant eating machine must have been created to play cleanup, eating only the oldest animals and the ones who were diseased. Megalosaurus was one of the giant benevolent animals made to, and I quote, he said, to diminish the aggregate or the total amount of animal suffering. So this thing obviously eats other animals, but in a world of paradise, it must have been made to go around and put sick and old animals out of their misery. That's an admirable attempt at trying to harmonize what he saw and what he was allowed to see. It's way more respectable, to my mind, than saying, well, here's how we're going to reconcile this thing that we're obviously seeing. These bones don't exist. Someone put them there. I mean, I've heard this in the last year. The bones were put there by the devil. They're a trick. But whether it's the latter example of just straight up denial, or Buckland's example of trying to harmonize what is with what has to be and what cannot be, the point here actually isn't about dinosaurs. I hope that that's clear. Because this whole point does serve as its own message about how we feel like we're supposed to read the Bible, and then creationism is one of the things that would come up. The totally unnecessary commitment to reading the Bible as supposedly literal, word for word literal in this place, but then, it's not as literal where it says don't charge interest and welcome the foreigner as though they were your own family member. That's a whole message in and of itself. I could just say, all right, peace be with you, and we could hang up now. But I'm hoping what you'll see is the thing behind it, because it affects other things and it's affecting you. Because if we are interested in the truth like Jesus said we would know and be liberated by, truth such as he was, not just as he taught, then it's the embracing of what is, unconcealed, unhidden, aletheia, the revealing of what is, or what the ancient Greeks would have said is reality. Not what must be or is allowed to be, what is. And the thing that stands in the way of observing and accepting what is the stories we cling to. The stories about what must be, our habit stories of what is and what cannot be. And when we hold on to stories too tightly, year after year after year, stories that we tell about ourselves, stories about God, stories about people, stories about who we are and aren't. We may believe that we're exercising conviction and perseverance and even integrity. And often we are. That's often true. Many of us we've had to hold tightly our values because we found ourselves thrust into contexts that were trying to degrade us, to tempt us to behave or to think in ways that were less than we were. That's why we held on so tight to our stories and our beliefs. Sometimes the most important thing, especially a young person can do, is learn how to hold the story of their worth, their own long-term vision for who they want to become someday, even as forces around them are trying to get them to give up on all that. Just give in to your appetites. There's no future. Just do whatever feels good now. It's so important to learn to hold on to those things. But then there comes a point where it's the way we hold our stories and for how long. Our beliefs about ourselves, about other people, about the world, we cling to what we already know. There comes a point where holding that so tightly becomes the number one reason we can no longer learn. We can't grow, we can't mature, we can't expand the love and the joy, the peace that God put in us to expand for ourselves and others, to radiate into the world. Our grip is so tight, so habituated that no new things can get in and no unhelpful things can get out. And so it's ironic, but it's totally true. Our beliefs block growth. Our beliefs often work against knowing the truth. How many times has a person or an entire group of persons been rejected and denied, not for what they did, but because of the story somebody else, the rejecter or the rejectors, tell about them? A trillion times has that happened? Or is that too conservative? Maybe more than a trillion? How many times does a child dare to bring their true self to their parents, and that parent denies the child's reality, the truth of that young person's existence, their feelings, their uniqueness, their sense of themselves? They invalidate them as stupid or confused or crazy or have fallen for some trick, bad, in a phase, not because of what's actually true, but because of what needs to be true. The parents are denying what's in front of them because of their grip on their preferred story. And whose expense does that come at but the child's? How many times has reality been unearthed, bare and real, and it's our tightly gripped commitment to the story we already have that forces us to reject it, to change it, to say it's something else, or to call it a lie, or to call it evil, and to turn our back to it. Again, it's often the case that our stories, the core of our beliefs, have truth in them, or were once true. It's a mistake to think of this as having two choices. We grip so tightly that we can't accept anything or grow beyond what we already believe and know, or we give up and there's no meaning and no truth or purpose to anything and just, be full on cynical. This is about having the ability, the wisdom, the humility, the grace to hold loosely. And if you've been hurt, if you've been afraid and you've got good reason to be afraid, that's going to take some faith. That's what's interesting. It will take faith to loosen your grip on your beliefs. But it will. Christian writer Corrie ten Boom and her family, they helped Jews escape Nazis during the Holocaust, and then she was later put in a concentration camp. She said, "Hold everything in your hands lightly." This is a Christian woman who's been through some stuff. Hold everything in your hands lightly. Otherwise, it hurts when God pries your fingers open. One of our listed values here at Crosspointe reflects our ongoing desire to get this right, because we're trying to be serious about love and justice and elevating compassion and awareness in ourselves and for others. So we put one of our stated values this way: Crosspointe humbly and thoughtfully changes its mind with better understanding, knowing that doing so carefully and with grace is far better for us all, than the stubborn refusal to see things anew. Because God is not going to be kept real dependent on the power of our grip. Reality isn't held together by our hands, by our stubborn, unyielding convictions. It's just not. It feels good. We can pat each other on the back with fists for, holding the line, but it's not. We're not holding reality together. We're blocking ourselves from a lot of it if we don't loosen our grip. And for some, this feels like what I'm saying, it's a lack of commitment to the truth, like it's giving up on the truth and being, what are the word, relativistic or, wishy-washy, watered down, all that stuff. Because so many of us have learned that truth, it's like a chunk of concrete God puts in our heads, and the most devout people refuse to try to move it or do anything to it, no matter what the world shows us, no matter what we've unearthed. But the truth isn't merely a thing we carry in our heads, it just is what is. We don't carry the truth or defend the truth. We carry curiosity and the humility to accept it, whatever it brings to us, and then to be liberated for having done so. What are the stories you tell about yourself that you might not even realize are stories that you're gripping so tightly? You've just assumed them to be true for so long, you can't even feel yourself choosing to grip it. What are the stories you tell about yourself or other people that you absorbed, you inherited from other people? And it may have been helpful for your sense of belonging at one point, but it doesn't serve you or anybody else now, not very well at all. We're not talking about theological conclusions about things like the point I was using earlier, the age of the earth, or a particular take on what the cross meant, or different denominations. When's the last time you looked at how tightly you gripped the story that you're bad? You learned to tell yourself this story as a child, and you still tell it. I'm an idiot, I'm a klutz, I'm this, I'm that. You learned to baptize this attitude in language like, I'm a sinner, or I'm just being humble. But it's a story of you're bad. Your decisions are bad. Your feelings are bad. Your desires are bad. Your body is bad. And these things block you from accepting love, from trying new things, from peace, from walking through the world knowing you have as much right to take up space and to have as much say as anybody else. Even now, you hear me saying the story of you being bad isn't a good story, But your story about your being bad, it runs so deep, you think I'm saying, go be self-centered. And that feels wrong to you. Or maybe the story you grip tightly is about joy or happiness, pleasure. You grip the story of feeling good, being so, the story that feeling good is bad so tightly, it affects your gratitude. Where you can be giving thanks for a good meal, and it's framed immediately by, think how many people don't get this. You feel like I'm supposed to mention hungry, starving people as you thank God. Again, that's not evil. That's even got truth in it. But that's not gratitude. That's shame. And we grip it so tightly. We don't know what it's like just to feel joy and gratitude and thanks without all that shame, because we've gripped that story for so long. There's no room for it to get in, and no ability for all that unhelpful stuff to get out. See how we might then project that onto others and their joy and their needs eventually, because it's so stuck inside of us. Or the story that the belief that danger and pain are the most true thing about life, and so being anxious and even suspicious, that just means you're being smart. Or the story that other people are worth the effort, but you're not. Or the story that life, the universe, God are out to trick you. So if things are going well for too long, get ready, because a surprise bit of hurt is coming. It's a test. Or the story that you are by nature less capable of certain things. Or that your belonging to community is really, you're being tolerated because people don't really like you. They just have to pretend that they like you because people are fake. Or that you don't have any power, and that it's bad to have power. So you don't have any, but people who do have it are bad. Or that people are fundamentally disappointing, and so distrust is simply paying attention. Or the story that you're going to have to prove to people back home that you're smart and you're wealthy and successful and influential, or else you will have to report that you're a complete failure. Or the story that if you're wrong about certain important things about you or others or the economy or God or what I'm saying right now, that could cost you forever. And so you have to be right at all times. There's a million stories and beliefs and assumptions that we grip. And while they may have some truth in them at one point or another, and they may have even served a purpose before, the inability to relax that grip, that's what blocks our ability to grow, to learn, to expand, to love and be loved, to know peace, and to know the very truths we think that we're protecting. The truth is supposed to set it free, and my friends, the truths that many of us have in a death grip, they trap us. They keep us isolated and anxious and tense, unhappy, unfree. And so we come again to a moment where we're invited to say yes to love's invitation to curiosity. As I have been asked, and I often ask others, what else might be true? What else beyond what we hold tightly in our tired hands could be true in a given moment about ourselves, another person, a belief, whatever it is? That question doesn't mean at all that we must falsify our stories. Sometimes they will be. We're just letting curiosity, which is another word for love, make some more room. Here's a silly example, but it's symbolic for me. Maybe it will be for you. It's a story I have believed and repeated my entire life. I'm not good at cooking. I'm a bad cook. I've held that so tightly that I didn't try to cook much beyond, spaghetti, sometimes soup or chili. Why? Because I can't cook. Didn't you hear me? So then I just started asking the question, well, what else could be true about that? Oh, I think what I mean is I'm not very experienced or skilled at cooking because I've never tried much beyond spaghetti. Well, what else could be true? Oh, I have the exact skill and experience of somebody who's done the exact amount of work I've done in a kitchen. All right, so what else could be true? Oh, I might not know if I'm a good cook because I haven't entertained the story that maybe I could be a good cook. And so I'm telling you right now, my friends, I don't have a Michelin star in my kitchen, but in the last year, I have cooked the heck out of some food. My menu would fit on a postcard, but it's some good stuff. But, I'm not a handyman, and I'm an awkward introvert, and I'm too much for people, and I can't handle too many things at once, and my parents ruined my life, and people are flaky, and these are stories. These are beliefs. They're not aletheia, uncovered reality. They're things that we continue to say to ourselves and others. They're stories, and we have a good reason for telling them. Past pain, that's the biggest one. Ways we got beat up in the past, so we just picked a story and kept telling it, rehearsed to the point of instinct or gospel. We do it about ourselves and the entire universe. And then here comes curiosity saying, well, what else might be true? Not what's allowed to be true. What else do the megalosauruses we are digging up be inviting us to add to the story we've been telling? Where we might have to let go of something that no longer serves us, but we're going to be adding to the overall story of what actually is in our engagement with it. Curiosity is doing this, giving us this gift, and it's so tricky because it grows us by shrinking us. From I know to, well, what if I didn't? Which is just another way of saying it puts us in a posture of honesty. Challenging our assumptions, our verdicts, our prejudices, our beliefs, our conclusions, our longly held stories. We're saying, I don't know about that. What else could be true? And a posture of I don't know is really uncomfortable in a culture that expects us to know more and more and more as we get older, not less. And it's uncomfortable because if you start applying curiosity, you can find that there are things that you thought you knew, but you're now adding to it and expanding it. Some of that stuff will be contradicted. Like what happens if in sustained curiosity, you have 20 consecutive things that you've gripped tightly your whole life. You have those expanded or countered. You start to think, oh no, I don't know anything. I'm losing my grip on reality. None of my stories fit. That's a scary, very uncomfortable feeling. And so we could clamp down again, constricted, less aware, less connected, but relieved. Or we can release our grip, let new in, let out what we've outgrown, or it's no longer helpful, and step back into the community, rejoining a people who say yes to the path of love and liberation in yet another way, this way. And it's not easy. I don't mean to make it sound easy. It's a really, really tricky one. U.S. President and preacher James Garfield captured it pretty well when he said, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. And I think miserable is maybe just a way of saying really uncomfortable as we loosen our grip on what we already believe and already know and had good reason for believing and knowing it so that new things can come in and the no longer useful things can get out. But then we're set free of having contempt for what we used to believe, because that will come out in judgment of others, or resistance to new things, because that comes out in dismissiveness. We'll be free of contempt for the past and fear of the future. And from any notion of being defenders of truth, we'll be growing and more at peace, because we'll actually be in touch with the uncovered, unconcealed, unhidden, unforgotten, disclosed reality out there and in here. And so as a closing prayer, I'll share something neuroscientist Anne Laura Lecomte said. It's a twist on the Serenity Prayer. She calls it the Curiosity Prayer. You can pray it with me about ourselves and others, the whole world, our faith, everything. All the things we already have figured out. All of this great and beautiful, mysterious, strange, and difficult life. And if you're like me, you'll repeat it daily. God, grant me the curiosity to explore the things I do not understand, the courage to question the things I do, and the wisdom to never stop learning. In Jesus' name, amen.
If you would like to know more or get connected to Crosspointe, go to crosspointenc.org. If you're in need of care or assistance, go to crosspointe.org/care. And welcome home.